In the dim glow of a late-night diner, where tired travelers and lonely souls pass through unnoticed, something extraordinary was about to happen. She was just a waitress, moving through the motions of another long shift, never expecting her life to change. Then the mysterious customer walked in, elegant, distant, carrying secrets in her eyes. One look, one smile, and suddenly the ordinary felt dangerous, thrilling, impossible to resist. What began as casual glances across a table would soon ignite into something neither of them could control. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss the emotional and provocative stories we bring to life. The diner had its usual soundtrack that night, the clink of silverware against chipped plates, the faint hum of a jukebox that hadn't been updated in years, and the occasional burst of laughter from a booth in the corner. I had worked here long enough to know every sound, every smell, every regular who came through those doors. It was predictable, almost numbing, but it paid the bills. I was wiping down the counter, lost in thought, when the bell above the entrance chimed. I glanced up, expecting another truck driver or late-night student. But the woman who walked in didn't belong to this place, not in her tailored coat, her glossy hair pulled back like she had just stepped out of a magazine, and her posture that radiated quiet confidence. She looked out of place among the cracked vinyl booths and fluorescent lights, yet she carried herself as though she had chosen to be here. She slid into a booth near the back, her eyes scanning the laminated menu like she was reading poetry instead of greasy spoon offerings. I caught myself staring before I quickly grabbed my notepad and walked over. "Evening," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Coffee to start?" She looked up at me, and the weight of her gaze made my pulse quicken. Her eyes were dark, sharp, and unreadable, but there was a softness there too, something that tugged at me. "Yes, please," she said, her voice low and smooth, almost melodic. "Black." I nodded, jotting it down though I didn't need to. My hands felt clumsy as I poured the coffee and set it in front of her. She thanked me with the faintest smile, and I found myself lingering a second too long before I forced myself back to the counter. Something about her unsettled me. Not in a bad way, but in a way that made me hyper-aware of every movement, every word I spoke. I'd had customers flirt with me before, drunk men who mistook politeness for invitation, but this was different. She hadn't said anything beyond that single word, yes, and yet I felt pulled into her orbit. When I went back to take her order, she surprised me. "What do you recommend?" she asked, setting the menu down. I blinked. "Honestly? The pancakes are safe. The burger's good if you're not picky. But the pie's the best thing we've got." Her lips curved just slightly, as if amused by my bluntness. "And coffee. Coming right up." Back in the kitchen, I tried to shake off the feeling that had settled over me. Why did it matter that she was here? She was just a customer, one I'd probably never see again. And yet, when I carried the plate of pie back to her table, the way her eyes followed me made me feel exposed, like she could see more than just the waitress in the apron. She ate slowly, savoring each bite as though it was more than diner pie, and when I came to refill her coffee, she looked up again. "What's your name?" she asked. The question caught me off guard. Customers rarely asked that unless they wanted to complain. "Maya," I said cautiously. "Maya," she repeated, like she was testing the sound of it on her tongue. "I'm Cassandra." The name suited her. Elegant, refined, mysterious. I nodded, unsure what else to say, and walked away before I embarrassed myself. But the rest of the shift felt different. I kept glancing toward her booth, drawn to the way she sat so composed, so unlike the rest of us who slouched through life. And every time I looked, I found her eyes already on me. By the time she finished her pie, the diner had nearly emptied out. She paid in cash, sliding the bill toward me with fingers adorned with delicate rings. I reached to take it, and for the briefest second, our hands brushed. Heat shot up my arm, so sharp and unexpected I nearly dropped the change. "Thank you, Maya," she said, her voice softer now, almost intimate. "You're welcome," I managed, though my throat felt tight. And then she was gone, the bell above the door chiming one last time. I should have let it go. People came and went from this diner every night. But as I cleaned her booth, I noticed she'd left her scarf behind. A silk scarf, deep crimson, unlike anything that belonged in a place like this. I picked it up, the fabric cool and smooth in my hands, and felt a jolt of something I couldn't name. Was it an accident? Or was it an invitation? I stared at the scarf for a long time, the hum of the diner fading into the background. Something about Cassandra felt unfinished, like her presence had only opened the first page of a story I wasn't supposed to read. And in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't the last time I would see her. The scarf sat folded neatly in my locker for 2 days before I gathered the courage to do anything about it. Every time I opened the door, its deep crimson color caught my eye, like it was daring me to act. Customers came and went, shifts blurred together, but Cassandra lingered in my mind as if she'd carved out a space there. I told myself I'd keep it safe until she came back for it. That was the responsible thing to do. But part of me knew better. Maybe she'd never come back. Maybe she had left it on purpose. That possibility twisted in my chest with equal parts fear and hope. On the third night, just as the dinner rush tapered off, the bell above the door chimed again. My heart leapt before I even turned. And there she was. Cassandra. The same tailored presence, the same quiet confidence, though this time she wore a dark coat belted at the waist, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked more approachable somehow, though her eyes carried the same mysterious weight. She slid into the same booth as before, like it belonged to her now. My hands shook as I grabbed my notepad, though I didn't need it. "Coffee?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Her smile was small, knowing. "Black. And maybe the pie again, if it's as good as I remember." "It always is," I said, and hurried away before she noticed my blush. In the kitchen, I scolded myself. She was just a customer. Stop acting like she was anything more. But when I brought her coffee, I couldn't stop myself. I reached into my apron pocket and placed the scarf on the table. "You left this," I said. Her eyes lit up, the faintest flicker of surprise quickly masked by composure. She picked it up, fingers running along the fabric, and then looked back at me. "So you kept it?" I hesitated. "I thought you might want it back." Her gaze held mine, steady, unflinching. "Or maybe I wanted to see if you would." The implication made my stomach twist. Before I could reply, another customer called me over, breaking the moment. But Cassandra's words lingered, heavy as thunderclouds. The rest of the night passed in fragments. I refilled her coffee, cleared plates, took orders, but my awareness of her never faded. She seemed to notice everything, the way I tucked stray hair behind my ear, the way my voice softened when I spoke to her, the way I avoided lingering too long at her booth. When the diner finally emptied and my shift ended, she was still there, sipping the last of her coffee as though she had been waiting. "Do you always work this late?" she asked as I wiped the counter. "Most nights," I said cautiously. "Why?" She rose gracefully, adjusting her coat. "Because I'd like to walk you home." The words froze me in place. Customers didn't say things like that. They didn't blur the line between politeness and intimacy. My first instinct was to say no, to protect myself. But the way she looked at me, steady, sincere, as if the offer carried no expectation beyond presence, made me nod before I realized I had. We stepped into the cool night air together. The streets were quiet, slick with the shine of earlier rain. I stuffed my hands in my jacket pockets, trying to ignore the pounding of my heart. "You don't have to do this," I said finally. "It's not far." "I want to," she replied simply. We walked in silence, the rhythm of our footsteps echoing down the empty block. It should have been awkward, but it wasn't. There was a comfort in her presence, even if it left me buzzing with nerves. At the corner near my apartment, I stopped. "This is me." She nodded, her eyes lifting to the modest building before returning to mine. "Thank you for keeping the scarf." "It was nothing," I said quickly, though the truth was it had been everything. She stepped closer, close enough that the air between us felt charged. "Maya," she said softly, "you don't even realize it, do you?" "Realize what?" I asked, my throat dry. "That you've been staring at me the same way I've been staring at you." My breath caught. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes searched mine for a beat longer before she stepped back, giving me space. "Good night," she said, her voice calm but edged with something unsaid. She turned, disappearing into the shadows of the street. I stood frozen long after she left, my pulse racing, her words echoing in my head. "The same way I've been staring at you." For the first time, I couldn't tell if I was more terrified or exhilarated. The next morning, I woke with her words still replaying in my head. "You've been staring at me the same way I've been staring at you." I tried to dismiss them, to chalk it up to exhaustion and the strange vulnerability of late-night conversations. But deep down, I knew she was right. Every time Cassandra looked at me, it felt like she was peeling back layers I had spent years building. I told myself she wouldn't come back. That her world was too polished, too far from the chipped booths and burnt coffee of my diner life. And yet, a part of me checked the door every time the bell rang that night. She arrived just after 9. I nearly dropped the tray I was carrying when she walked in, her presence pulling all the air out of the room. She wasn't in her tailored coat tonight but a simple sweater and jeans that made her look human. Beautiful but approachable. She chose the same booth again, and when I went over, she smiled faintly. "Coffee?" I asked, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "Of course," she said. "But only if you sit with me this time." My heart skipped. "I can't. I'm working." "Then on your break," she said smoothly. "I'll wait." The certainty in her tone unnerved me. Most people came and went. She lingered as though she had decided I was worth the wait. By the time I slid into the booth across from her on my 15-minute break, my nerves were a mess. She pushed a cup toward me, black coffee, already poured. "I wasn't sure how you take it," she said. "Black's fine," I murmured, though normally I drowned it in cream and sugar. For a moment, we sat in silence, the hum of the diner filling the space. Then Cassandra leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. "So, Maya," she said softly, "what keeps you here?" The question startled me. Here. In this place. This diner. This life. I shifted uncomfortably. Not everyone has choices. Her eyes softened. Maybe not. But sometimes choices find us, even when we're not looking. I didn't know how to answer that. I sipped my coffee instead, the bitter taste grounding me. "What about you?" I asked finally. "Why here? Why this diner when you could go anywhere?" She smiled faintly, but there was sadness in it. "Because here, no one expects anything from me. No titles. No masks. Just coffee, pie, and a waitress who looks at me like she sees the woman underneath it all." Her honesty sent a shiver down my spine. I opened my mouth to reply, but before I could, the sharp crash of breaking glass rang out from the kitchen. I jumped to my feet, my break forgotten, rushing to help. A cook had dropped a tray, shards scattered across the floor. As I bent to clean it, I felt Cassandra's gaze on me from across the room, steady and unshakable. The rest of my shift was a blur. When it finally ended, I found her waiting outside under the neon sign. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of rain. "You shouldn't wait for me," I said, though my chest tightened with something that felt dangerously like hope. "Maybe I wanted to," she replied. We walked in silence down the quiet street, my apartment drawing closer with each step. I could feel her beside me, her presence strong and grounding, and yet my mind spun with questions I couldn't bring myself to ask. At my building, I stopped. "This is me," I said again, my voice shaky. She looked up at the dark windows, then back at me. "Do you want me to leave?" The question caught me off guard. My lips parted but no sound came out. Did I want her to leave? Or did I want her to stay so badly it scared me? She stepped closer, her voice dropping lower. "Maya, I don't play games. If I stay, it's because you want me to." Her words left no room for misinterpretation. My heart pounded, my mind screaming warnings about reputation, consequences, heartbreak. But my body leaned toward her, betraying me. I could feel the warmth of her, the faint trace of her perfume, the way her eyes lingered on my lips. The world seemed to narrow to that single moment, every sound and light fading until it was just her and me on the doorstep. And then, from somewhere inside my apartment building, a voice called my name. I froze, the spell breaking. A neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, peered out from her window above, curiosity etched on her face. Maya? Is that you? Heat rushed to my cheeks. Yes, Mrs. Alvarez. Just got home. Her gaze flicked between me and Cassandra before she disappeared back into the shadows, but I knew it was enough. The gossip would spread by morning. Cassandra's expression didn't change, but her eyes searched mine carefully. Do you regret this already? She asked softly. No, I whispered, my voice trembling. But I'm scared. Her hand lifted slightly, as if she wanted to touch me but didn't dare with the whole building watching. Fear is natural, she said gently. But don't let it stop you from living. Before I could answer, she stepped back, her composure sliding back into place like armor. Good night, Maya, she said, her voice steady but her eyes burning with something unspoken. And then she was gone, walking down the street until the shadows swallowed her whole. I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart aching with both longing and dread. The line between us had blurred beyond repair, and now the whole world seemed ready to notice. The morning after, the diner felt different. Every clink of a coffee cup, every scrape of a chair echoed louder than usual, as if the entire place carried the weight of last night. I couldn't shake the image of Mrs. Alvarez's curious eyes peering from the window, and the way Cassandra's voice had softened into something equal parts daring and dangerous. Don't let fear stop you from living. By mid-morning, the whispers began. Not from Mrs. Alvarez, at least, not directly, but from the small community that orbited the diner. Mr. Jensen, who always ordered eggs over easy, gave me a look that lingered too long. A pair of teenage girls in the corner giggled when I passed their table, and though they might have been laughing at nothing, I felt exposed. Cassandra didn't show up that night. Or the next. At first, relief washed over me, like space was exactly what I needed. But the longer her absence stretched, the more it gnawed at me. Had she decided the risk wasn't worth it? Had I hesitated too long on that doorstep, given her reason to believe I wasn't ready? On the third night, she appeared. The doorbell chimed, and there she was, poised but not polished. Her hair was loose, falling over her shoulders, and she wore no jewelry, just a simple dark coat. My heart jumped so violently I nearly spilled the pot of coffee I was holding. She sat down in her usual booth, but this time, she didn't order. She simply waited until I came over. I thought you weren't coming back, I admitted before I could stop myself. Did you want me to stay away? Her voice was low, careful, as if bracing for my answer. I swallowed hard. No. Her expression softened. Then I won't. The simplicity of her words disarmed me, and for a moment, I forgot about the whispers, the stares, the judgment lurking in the corners of this small town. Later, after my shift, I found her outside again, leaning against the diner's neon glow. This time, I didn't hesitate. We walked together in silence until we reached the park 2 blocks away. The benches were empty, the lamps casting soft halos of light on the wet pavement. I needed space, she said quietly, settling on a bench. Not from you, but from the noise. I don't like being the reason people stare at you. They've been staring at me for years, I replied, sitting beside her. Not because of you. Because I never quite fit into their mold. Her eyes turned toward me, sharp and searching. And do you want to fit into it? I hesitated. Sometimes. It seems easier. She leaned back, her gaze lifting to the dark branches above. Easy doesn't mean right. The words lingered between us, heavy and true. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps broke the quiet. 2 men approached, their voices slurred with drink. I tensed immediately. Well, look at this, one of them said with a smirk. Fancy lady and the diner girl. Didn't know you swung that way, Maya. My stomach dropped. Heat burned my cheeks, but before I could respond, Cassandra stood. Keep walking, she said firmly, her tone commanding. The men laughed, but something in her stance, straight-backed, unwavering, made them falter. They muttered something crude under their breath and shuffled off, disappearing into the dark. I exhaled shakily. That's exactly what I was afraid of. Cassandra sat back down, her face calm but her hand trembling slightly where it rested on the bench. "They don't matter." "They do here," I said bitterly. "In this town, everyone matters. Everyone talks." She turned to me then, her eyes blazing. "And what about you, Maya? Don't you matter? Don't we?" Her words pierced through the fear I'd been carrying, cracking it open. The truth was, I had spent so much of my life trying to make myself small, safe, acceptable. But when she looked at me like that, fierce and unyielding, I wanted more. My throat tightened. "I don't know how to be brave like you." Her expression softened and she reached out, her fingers brushing mine. Bravery isn't about not being afraid. It's about choosing something greater than fear. The touch was electric, grounding and terrifying all at once. For a moment, I almost forgot where we were. And then headlights cut across the park, freezing us in place. A patrol car slowed as it passed, the officer inside glancing toward the bench where we sat, too close, too telling. The car moved on, but the damage was done. I pulled my hand back, heart racing. "See? It's never just us. There's always someone watching." Cassandra's jaw tightened. "Then let them watch. I'm tired of living my life as a performance." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to take her hand again and let the world burn. But the weight of years of silence, of knowing exactly how fast rumors spread, kept me frozen. We sat in silence for a long time, the hum of distant traffic filling the void. Finally, she stood, her voice steady but threaded with disappointment. "I won't push you, Maya. But I also won't hide forever." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I watched as she walked away, her figure swallowed by the shadows once more, and I was left trembling on the bench. I knew then that I was standing on the edge of a decision that could change everything. I could let fear dictate my life, keeping me in the safety of the diner's routine. Or I could leap, uncertain and terrified, into something real with her. The thought scared me more than anything, but it also filled me with a longing so fierce it hurt. And as I walked back to my apartment alone, one question burned in my mind. If she gave me one last chance, would I be brave enough to take it? The next few days were unbearable. The diner felt emptier without Cassandra, though she hadn't stopped coming entirely. She still appeared once or twice, slipping into her booth, ordering her tea. But there was a wall between us now, invisible yet suffocating. Our conversations were brief, polite, restrained. I served her food with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, and she thanked me with a nod that carried a quiet ache. The whispers in town only grew louder. I heard them in the grocery store aisle, in the laundromat, even in the soft tone of my landlord when he asked if everything was all right. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was judgment, and it pressed on me like a weight I couldn't escape. But what hurt most wasn't them. It was the emptiness when Cassandra's eyes avoided mine, the silence where her laughter used to be. One rainy evening, after another shift where we barely exchanged words, I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped outside to find her standing under the awning, watching the rain fall on the deserted street. She looked lost, like she was already saying goodbye. "Cassandra," I said, my voice trembling. She turned, her expression guarded. "Maya." I swallowed hard, rain misting against my face as the wind blew. "I can't keep pretending this doesn't matter. You matter. More than the whispers, more than the stares." Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak, so I pressed on. "I'm scared, yes. I've been scared my whole life. But when you walked away the other night, I realized fear has already stolen enough from me. I don't want it to steal you too." For a moment, the rain was the only sound, heavy and relentless. Then, slowly, Cassandra stepped closer, her eyes searching mine with a mixture of hope and caution. "Are you sure?" she asked softly, as if testing the fragility of my words. I nodded, tears burning my eyes. "For the first time, yes. I'm sure." Her hand lifted, hesitant, then brushed against mine. That simple touch, so gentle, so deliberate, broke something open in me. I didn't care if anyone was watching. I didn't care if Mrs. Alvarez or half the town was peering from their windows. I leaned in, closing the space between us, and kissed her. The world didn't stop, but for me, everything shifted. Her lips were warm, tender, filled with all the unspoken words we had carried for weeks. In that moment, I felt whole, seen, and brave in a way I never had before. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, she rested her forehead against mine. "You don't know how long I've been waiting to hear you say that," she whispered, her voice steady, full of relief. I laughed through my tears. "And you don't know how long I've been too afraid to admit it." The rain soaked us both, plastering her dark hair to her face and dripping down my cheeks, but neither of us moved. We stood there in the downpour, clinging to each other as though the storm itself was our witness. In the weeks that followed, life didn't suddenly become easier. The whispers didn't disappear. Some customers stopped coming to the diner, while others gave me knowing smiles. But something inside me had changed. The fear was still there, but it no longer dictated my choices. Cassandra and I found ways to carve out moments just for us. Walks at dusk, quiet dinners, music shared in the glow of her apartment lamp. She challenged me, inspired me, and reminded me daily that love, real love, was worth every risk. One evening, sitting on her couch with her hand wrapped around mine, I told her, "You were right. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing something bigger than fear." She smiled, squeezing my hand. "And you chose us." I nodded. "Every day I'll keep choosing us." Looking back, I realized the whispers never defined me. What defined me was the moment I stopped running, the moment I decided that love, messy, complicated, terrifying love, was worth stepping into the light for. So here I stand, no longer hiding, no longer shrinking. I am not just the waitress from the diner. I am someone who found the courage to love openly, and in doing so, I found myself. And as I share this story with you, I ask, what fears are keeping you from living fully? What love or dream have you silenced because of the weight of others' opinions? If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: the world will always talk. Let them. What matters is the life you choose for yourself, and the love you refuse to deny. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who needs the reminder that courage and love can rewrite any story.